If you've been going around the good old internet looking for the right podcast to fulfill your New York Yankees needs, well, I'll be the first to deliver the good news to you. You have found it. Here on Yapping Yankees with me, your host, Mike Scudero, you and I will be discussing the latest news, takes, and talk throughout the entire Yankee universe. Oh, and there may be some ranting on my behalf. Yeah. Anyway, what do you say we get to it? Let's get to yapping! Well, hello there, my fellow Yankee fans, and welcome to episode 263 of the Yapping Yankees podcast. As always, I am your host, Mike Scudero, your friendly neighborhood Yankee yapper with the best yap in all the land, here on September 14th, 2025, with yet another extra large order of the Yappuccino for you. Thank you. Coming to you live once again from the echo chamber, known as the spare bedroom of my apartment. Cannot believe it's mid-September, guys. As the episode title says, 2 more weeks to go. Insane. Third week in a row doing an episode, though, at this point. Did one last Sunday, the Sunday before that, after a mostly absent August, so that's good. It's nice to be back with you today. Hope you all had a good last week. I did. It was busy, but it was nice. So all is good with me. Hope all is good with you as well. And the Yankees this past week, well, interesting, because when we last yapped last Sunday, the Yankees are coming off of a very good week. They had mostly looked very good in Houston, except for their, few of their usual clown moments, of course, but mostly looked very good in Houston, very resilient, just showed up to play. And except for the first night against Toronto when they came out like zombies, like we were kind of all half expecting, I think, when we had all heard what time they arrived back in New York to get ready for the series after, for some reason, they didn't make that last game against the Astros a day game. So for some people, it might not have been as surprising, but nonetheless, they did come out looking like zombies, like many of us kind of expected, I think, for that first game. But then they woke right up and got the last two to win 2 out of 3 against them in what's been very close division race, and the Yankees are hanging tough, but the Blue Jays, especially this past week, just won't stop losing. And when it comes to this past week, the Yankees unfortunately did a little bit of losing, but also had good success, particularly this weekend. They scuffled a bit against the Tigers. They lost 2 out of 3 to them. It looked like a sweep was definitely coming, but it did not happen. Last game, they came out strong. And this weekend so far against Boston, they look terrific, which runs counter to many of their games they've played against the Red Sox this year on a whole. So that's very refreshing to finally see, especially in a series as important as this one. If you're going to ever show up in no other series but choose one to show up in, then this is the one you want to do it in. And the Yankees are doing it in that. So that's what you want to see. It's awesome. They look great this weekend, playing clean baseball, going out there, scoring runs, shut down pitching. Good stuff all around. Now, I am recording this show. Bear this in mind. There's no way of you knowing this unless I say it, because you're going to be hearing it later anyway, after the game is over. But I am taping this episode before the game starts. Maybe I might catch the very beginning of it towards the end of this episode, depending how things time out and how long the episode is. But especially for the vast majority of the show, particularly now, and possibly the entirety of it, this is before the game starts. So just for timing-wise, and just in case I say anything that runs counter, like, I say what I'm expecting from somebody, but then you're hearing this episode saying, that is not what happened tonight at all. What the hell is he yapping about? Well, it's because I'm recording before the game. So just so you're aware, that is the deal with tonight's episode. I will talk about what I think will happen in tonight's game, at least ahead of time, beforehand. But right now, we can start off talking about this past week, just diving right into it. I know I haven't done this in a while, but no wasting time today. We're getting right in. Before I do, though, just real quick, just a reminder, I do intend on doing episodes each of the next 2 weeks as well. I do intend on doing that. I want to do one next Sunday. There's a slight chance I might not be able to, but most likely you will be getting an episode, and then you are definitely going to be getting an episode on the 28th, which is the day of the last game of the season. I definitely want to do an appropriate round off and just overall recap of the end of the year, see how things ultimately end off, where things land, the whole 9 yards. I want to do that for the last weekend. So even if I don't do an episode next weekend, you are definitely getting one in 2 weeks on the 28th. And obviously the weekend after that, like I mentioned, my girlfriend and I are going to be away for that weekend, so I will not be doing an episode that weekend, which it'll be tough because that's playoff time, but we've had this trip scheduled for a while, so it's going to happen. So we'll be going on that. No episode that weekend, but then however long the playoffs last, if they're not already done by then, which of course we hope they're not, we hope the Yankees go as deep as possible, hopefully to the very end ideally. Whether or not we think that will happen ultimately is another story, but we'll see how long it goes. But any and all other playoff weekends after that, I very much intend to be around for. But like I said on last week's episode, at least for the end of the year, I want to finish off strong and try to give you an episode for every weekend of the month of September to at least finish the regular season on a consistent note. So that's what I intend on doing. I intend on doing episodes next weekend and the weekend after that for at least 5 consecutive weekends for the first time in God knows how long. So that's the deal for that. As far as what has happened this past week, my friends, why don't we just get right into weekly recap? That's kind of just been the flow of the show the last couple of weeks, getting a weekly recap first and just going over things that really happen in the games. And then we'll do an overall team analysis, what we expect going forward, going over what's ahead for the final 2 weeks of the season, Yankee opponents, what I think will happen in those games and against those particular opponents, and how each and every single player on the team, or just a general facet of the team like the bullpen or the starting rotation, for instance. We usually go more in-depth on the offense anyway, but just what I think about everybody on the team individually, how they did this past week, how I think they'll finish off the season. Just overall team analysis, just going over everything and giving our thoughts on all of it. No social media segment today. Very crazy weekend. Didn't have really much time to think of one to put out there, so we're not going to do a social media segment for today's show. I do intend on this episode being shorter, but again, like many other times, I have said that, and then it ends up being just as long as a previous episode in a recent week, or even longer. So I am not putting my foot in my mouth by promising anything, but I do intend on it being a shorter episode this weekend, just going through the necessities and doing what we got to do. I really try not to keep you for too long. I almost never succeed at that because you can't shut me up, but I know that an hour and a half plus is a long time for someone to sit there and listen to my crazy ass. So trying to correct that a little bit in the home stretch here. We'll see what happens, but let us jump into that Yapping Yankees time machine and talk about what happened this past week against the Tigers and our good old friends, well, in reality, anything but our good old friends, the Boston Red Sox, this weekend. Let's go.
This is where the fun begins.
As they say in Italian, Mets, a so-so, Anakin. Not all of this past week was fun, but we do start going back to Tuesday, since the Yankees did have off on Monday, September 8th. Tuesday was no day for the Yankees to remember, and the shame of it is that at one point, things were actually looking pretty good in this game. Starting off this game for the Yankees was Will Warren, and up until the end when he gave up 2 runs on a 2-run shot in the top of the 5th towards the end of his outing to Parker Meadows, and then went on to pitch a scoreless 6th for a 6-inning, 2-run final line. I mean, it was fine. 6 innings, 2 runs, only 2 hits, 1 walk, 5 Ks. A fine start for Will in what's mostly been a nice second half for him. Very nice. So, I mean, at this point, it was looking pretty good. And even before that, the Yankees had gotten on the board with 2 runs of their own. Judge hit a solo shot in the first inning, and then Bellinger hit his 28th, a solo shot in the bottom of the 4th. And then Parker tied the game in the 5th, so it was tied at 2 heading into the 7th. And I don't know, sort of feeling like, all right, good, really close game heading towards the end here. We'll see which bullpen has the advantage and which offense gets the upper hand at some point. Well, pretty damn obvious which one got the upper hand, because good Lord in heaven. Between Fernando Cruz, who is one of only a couple of arms that even I said last week I trust out there in that bullpen, Tuesday wasn't his night, to say the very least, because my guy did not record a single out, walked 3 guys, gave up 2 hits, and allowed 5 runs.
Holy crap!
And you thought it stopped there? No, it didn't. Because to capitalize on that, Mark Leiter Jr. came in and continued the very same thing. He also failed to record a single out of his own as his travesty season continues, allowing 4 runs on 2 hits and a walk as well.
Oh, no!
Yeah, so honestly, outside of Cruz, just your typical, because, you come to trust Cruz for a while now, but this outing did absolutely nothing for his numbers, which have otherwise been very good. But yeah, this past week was not pleasant for him, particularly this game. But with him and Leiter Jr. combined, they combined to form yet another typical Yankee 2025 bullpen meltdown. It was a nightmare. A nightmare. Then Tim Hill actually miraculously pitched a scoreless inning of his own after that to finally pitch the 7th inning, which saw 9 runs scored in that inning alone.
Oh my God!
Just piling on the sound effects, I guess. It's warranted because of how much of a travesty that inning was. Absolutely horrible. Oh my God. And then just to capitalize, really, of course, because why not? Cherry on the cake in the top of the 8th inning when they put up another run, did the Tigers, against the Yankees, with Paul Blackburn in the game. And this didn't help matters when even Ryan McMahon committed an error, because even those who are very good at defense are still human beings and they're not perfect, but even he committed an error, which after that, Riley Green got an RBI single, which made that an unearned run for Blackburn. But why not throw a nice old error on top of the glorious cake that was Tuesday night's game against the Tigers? Because Lord knows the Yankees have not had enough of those this season, errors, so why not just one little extra? Yeah, the final score was 12-2 when all was said and done. And we could not be happier to say goodbye to that game. Only to be met with one just about as bad on Wednesday night. On Wednesday, the Yankees lost 11-1. So another 10-run loss for the Yankees. And the shame of it is, it happened in very similar fashion in the sense, the Yankees never had a lead like they did on Tuesday, but it was actually a very close game until the 7th or 8th inning, towards the later part, somewhat similarly to Tuesday. And the other similarity was that the starting pitcher, almost identically, except for the hit total being slightly different, 6 innings of 2-run ball, with just 1 more strikeout in Rodon's case on Wednesday with 6 strikeouts. So again, a respectable outing by the starting pitcher. Just so happened that unlike Tuesday, where the offense did put up 2 runs, not an overabundance by any means, obviously, but at least there was a presence. It took until the Yankees were down 8-0 for them to put up a run in the bottom of the 8th on an Austin Wells solo shot this time around, so that much is different. But this time, the starting pitcher, despite receiving no run support, still put up a respectable starting pitching line very similarly to Will Warren's on Tuesday. And then after that, the bullpen folds like origami once again. Didn't have enough of Mark Leiter Jr. Tuesday? Take more from Wednesday. Only recorded an out, and on 2 hits, gave up yet another run in that top of the 7th.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yeah, it has been a nightmare season of epic proportions for Mark Leiter Jr. Just what else can even be said about it? He's just been a nightmare. Nightmare. And speaking of nightmares, Camilo Duvall came in after he was done. And I just got to say, I cannot believe, I always knew that Duvall had a wild streak to him, and if he didn't know where the ball was ever going, then it was rough for him. But he really has truly been, for a chunk of his career in the bullpen, with the Giants, of course, before this, he's really been a respectable reliever with just disgusting stuff. Even if he wasn't going to be as great as he was with the Giants, I don't think any of us expected it to be this bad. This guy has been truly putrid since coming to the Yankees. guys like him and Ryan Helsley for the Mets, guys like that who were moved at the deadline and just are such a travesty when they go elsewhere and they're traded elsewhere. It's amazing. I guess it's really just a thing that people just don't gel with certain towns, with certain teams, with certain fans, with certain situations, with, I guess, just a certain entire other location. It's just not working. He's been awful. Absolutely awful. Gave up 3 more runs here. It's almost a foregone conclusion before he even enters the game that he's going to be bad. I'm so disappointed. I can't even begin to say truly how disappointed I am given how thrilled I was after the Yankees acquired him. Because again, like I said, I was one of the first ones to give Cashman props that whether or not it works out, on paper, he had himself a fine trade deadline this year, one of the best ones in years. And Duvall was a big part of that when the news about him came out. I am so unbelievably disappointed in him. I don't even really know how to properly put it into words beyond what I already have since he's been here. But he has just been absolutely terrible. There's not a single time where I see him warming up in the bullpen where I'm confident. Not once. 3 more runs here. And then Tim Hill, I know his specialty is lefties, and he hasn't been bad this year. 2 more runs here, though. Luke Weaver came in, 3 more runs here. Even he's mostly been disappointing. He's had an outing or two since this game where he's been good, but he's been up and down this year, very up and down. Much more down than I think a lot of us expected, particularly since after his injury a few months ago. But yeah, 3 more runs here. And you know what the sad part is? That they were down so badly when they were down 11-1 in the 9th inning. The bullpen continued to be such a nightmare in this series like they have for most of the season at this point, but particularly in this game and series, that they put in a position player. They put Slater in the game to pitch. Obviously, Slater is an outfielder. He's not a pitcher. He's a position player. They put him in the game. And you know what the really, I don't know, choose your word for it, hilarious or just incomprehensibly sad fact about this is that Austin Slater is a position player. He's not a pitcher. And yet he is the only person who appeared in this particular game as a pitcher who did not give up a run. Yeah, feel free to laugh it up depending on who you're talking to. It's definitely funny. Leiter Jr., Rodon, even though Rodon had a good outing, Duvall, Hill, Weaver, all of them gave up runs. The position player who came in to pitch, Austin Slater, did not give up a run in the 2 outs he recorded. It's honestly kind of hilarious. It really is. Just indicative of how the Yankee bullpen has been. They deserve that kind of embarrassment because they themselves are embarrassing all on their own. So then Thursday comes around, and you're just praying that the Yankees don't get swept. We remember Giancarlo Stanton's quote from earlier in the year, we just don't get swept at home. Well, fortunately, I do think that the Yankees remembered that in some sort of way because they managed to avoid a sweep at home, and they managed to actually salvage a game here. Now, I did not think that the Yankees were going to win every single one of these very important 4 series that we were talking about that have taken place these last 2 weeks between the Astros, Blue Jays, Tigers, and now the Red Sox. I expected them to lose at least one of the series. Winning 2 out of 3 with all of them at the very least would have been very nice. But I was like, you know what? They're probably, just because of the tendency to the team, the bullpen, the offense disappears every once in a blue moon, although overall in the year they've been very, very good. Top offense in the league, no denying that. But, you know, everybody has their bad days, and these 4 teams are very good. They're the best the American League has to offer. So I wouldn't be surprised if they lose at least one of the series. So it's okay. They lost this series. It is what it is. Going into tonight's game, they have already won this series in Boston, which is huge for what's been going on lately at this point of the year with how the standings are, particularly against the Red Sox specifically. So they did manage to win 3 out of the 4 very important series, and I guess you take that. It's not the end of the world. I actually, unfortunately, do not think they'll win tonight. I'll go more into that later. I just don't have a good feeling about it, whether it be the Yankees on ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, which 99% of the time is like their worst enemy on the face of the earth, actually. No exaggeration. Because of the pitching matchup, just a few different things. But even if they do lose tonight, they'll have won another series 2 out of 3. And they will have come out of these 4 series having gone 7-5, which is okay. That's fine. You can live with that. Especially because they won 2 out of 3 against the Blue Jays and 2 out of 3 at least, with possibly a sweep tonight against the Red Sox. And those are the 2 very, very important opponents, of course, for wild card and divisional purposes. So if you wanted them to lose a series, I guess it's kind of bad timing because the Blue Jays were doing some winning while the Yankees were doing some losing against the Tigers. But you wanted the winning to be done against the Blue Jays and Red Sox, which has been done. And if you had to choose a series for them to lose in, it was the Astros or the Tigers. So it's whatever, not the end of the world. But regardless, they actually managed to pull one out on Thursday, thankfully. Starting the game for the Yankees on Thursday was Cam Schlittler. He looked really good once again, driving his ERA back down to about 3 after his nightmare outing against the Blue Jays on the first game of that series Friday. About a week and a half ago, that was the game where they just came out like zombies, but Cam also didn't really give him a chance in that game because things just got out of hand fairly early. So, 6 innings, 1 run, 5 hits, 2 walks, and 7 Ks against the Tigers here in Thursday's game. So very nicely done by Cam. And then after that, while the Yankees were up big, Ryan Yarbrough, who also just came off the injured list a couple of weeks ago for the first time in months when the roster expanded on September 1st. He rounded out the game by throwing the final 3 innings, only allowing 2 runs. And once you throw 3 innings, regardless of the lead, you do earn yourself a save. So Ryan Yarbrough did get his first and what is likely to be his only save of 2025. Pretty cool there. But the story was mainly the offense, of course, because the starting pitching, especially as of this point throughout the entire series, really did a fantastic job. Warren pitched well, Rodon pitched well, and Cam pitched well. It was really just the bullpen that melted down and the offense not doing too much. So starting pitching wasn't the problem in this series, not by a long shot. But Judge kicked things off right away with his first of 2 homers on the night, number 45, solo shot in the bottom of the first. Tigers tied it up at 1 after that, but then the Yankees just took off and never looked back from that point forward. Bottom of the second, RBI double Ben Rice. RBI single by Jose Caballero, who's gotten a lot of playing time in light of some recent Volpe news we'll get to later. And it's good to see because I think it's pretty obvious who should be playing short from this point out for the rest of the year. I've only been saying that for weeks now. Who's surprised?
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Not so much, Palpatine. But anyway, yeah, Caballero making his mark on the game too, RBI single. And then Judge with his second of 2 homers on the night, number 46, technically number 47. Solo shot gave him a 4-1 lead. Stanton homering right after that for his 20th of the year made it 5-1. And like I said, that pretty much as far as the everyday players for most of the year, except for McMahon and Volpe, pretty much everyone in the Yankee lineup now has 20 home runs. We were talking more about that last week, so that's cool to see. As Stanton has slowed down recently, definitely, but still putting up remarkable numbers for, especially given the amount of time he's missed in 2025 earlier on in the season. So that's cool to see. Good to see yet another home run from him, 5-1. Even Austin Slater got in on the action. RBI single, 6-1. Bellinger, RBI single as his just wonderful season continues. 2-run single for Jazz, 9-1. Then Tigers made it 9-2 and 3 in the 7th and 9th innings. That was the final score. And Gleyber Torres, by the way, did make his first return to Yankee Stadium. That should also be noted with this series. He received a decent round of applause. And, he obviously had a lot of bad moments here, a lot of lackadaisical gameplay, and had a lot of heat thrown at him. A decent chunk of the time, it was rightfully so. Some people are a little brutal, but, in general, rightfully so. He deserved some of it. Not the brutality aspect, but just the criticism, the valid criticism. But he received a pretty nice reception, and I think that's pretty valid because even though a chunk of last year, like months, were just really bad, he finished in the last month and a half or so very strong, and he had himself a good October even into the World Series. So you know what? left on a high note, I guess, and he spent a lot of years here, so I don't think he deserved relentless booing, but got himself a decent hand. So, good for him. But obviously, I've always wished him nothing but the best. I hope he continues to have success in Detroit or wherever else he ends up at any point. But good to see him again. Weird to see him out of a Yankee uniform since he's been in one since 2018 up until this year. So that's a lot of years in one uniform. But nonetheless, he made his return, and the Yankees fortunately eked out a win. I shouldn't say eked out, but it was a pretty dominated series by the Tigers at this point. In the context of the whole series, they eked out a win, but not so much in this specific game. They won big. It's nice to see that they did, because again, after the way the first two games went, we welcomed that, I think. Then the Yankees hit the road and headed off to Fenway Park for the first of 3 road series coming up. The Twins and the Orioles to follow this. What will be a 10-game road trip, I believe. Yeah, because it's 3 against the Twins and then 4 against the Orioles. But things did start off against the Red Sox, and like I alluded to earlier, in case you haven't already seen the 2 games this weekend, it's been going very well for the Yankees this weekend so far. Again, don't know what's going to happen tonight, but so far it's been going real well for them. Friday started with Heel taking on Giolito, and the Yankees did get to action right away. Judge homered for his 47th and most recent home run in the top of the first right away on Friday night. And this was a big home run because we spoke about him tying, and then surpassing Yogi Berra about a week or 2 ago. And then this home run was the one that surpassed Joe DiMaggio for officially number 4 on the Yankees' all-time home run list, which is huge. Congratulations to Aaron Judge on that. Definitely worthy of celebration. Not only because he's 3 home runs off of 50 once again in his career, which it'll be the 4th time that he does that. His rookie year, his 62 home run season last year, and if he's to hit 50 again this year, it would be his 4th time in, 9-10 years? That's just insane. It's absolutely insane. And he is running out of time, but I know they have a lot of games coming up against the Orioles, and he tends to bully the crap out of them. He's certainly been walked a lot this year, and he also missed that week and a half with his arm injury. So all things considered, I think it's still pretty cool that he has yet another chance for another season of at least 50 home runs. I think that's badass as hell. And he got off to a nice start with this 47th home run here, and it was an absolute mammoth shot over the monster in left center. An awesome home run. Take a listen. Why not? Audio and courtesy, actually, of Apple TV.
And Judge rips one out toward left center field. This one headed way back beyond the monster as Aaron Judge catapults the Yankees to a 1-0 lead.
Yeah, that ball was objectively murdered. So, again, congratulations to Judge. The only ones ahead of him on that all-time Yankees home run list are Lou Gehrig with all 493 career home runs he hit with the Yankees, because it's the only team he played with, obviously. Mickey Mantle, same thing, but with 536. And then Babe Ruth after that, who hit 714 career home runs, but hit the vast majority of his with the Yankees, 659 to be exact. We'll see if Judge has it in him to make it there. It all depends on how he ages and, of course, how old he actually intends to play until, since he already did come up, I think he was around 24, 25, so it's on the older side because he chose to stay in school and go to college, so which is good for him. It's totally fine. It just gives him less time to accomplish maybe certain milestones if he doesn't plan to play well into his 40s, and depending on how he ages on his way to that and how he plays as he ages. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It's very possible he can climb all the way to the top, but it's a tough number 1. Over 600 home runs to get to Babe Ruth. That's hard, even for someone as great as Judge. If Judge got started a little bit earlier, I don't think he'd have any problem making it to 600. But if he doesn't plan to play again until well into his mid-40s, I don't really know. And depends on how many home runs he gets per year up to that. I would say definitely safely give him an average of maybe 40 right now, and then maybe slightly lower in a few years. I mean, we'll see. We have no idea, to be honest. So I don't really want to go out on the limb and predict anything ridiculous, for better or for worse. But we'll see what happens. It's very interesting to think about. Anyway, those thoughts did good to derail me from the main subject matter, as usual. That's ADD brain for you. Top of the third inning, Bellinger would capitalize on an RBI single of his own to drive Judge home later on, actually. That would make it 2-0. Then on a ground ball to second, on a fielder's choice, Ryan McMahon would also drive home Caballero, but it didn't help the Red Sox that David Hamilton also threw the ball away. Bad throw. So that made it 3-0. And then Ben Rice would make it 4-0 on an RBI single after that. And Nate Eaton was the only one to score a run for the Red Sox in the bottom of the seventh on a solo shot off of Fernando Cruz. So other than that, Luis Gil had a terrific outing. And actually, it was an outing where he didn't give up a single friggin' hit. 6 innings of no-hit ball. He did walk 4, though, and struck out 4. But again, another start to show that Luis Gil is definitely on the mend. He's looking better and better outing after outing. He definitely started to fold in on himself a little bit later into his outing, and the pitch count was piling up as he was doing so. So I don't hate the idea to take him out. Maybe he could have gotten a couple more batters, but he was really looking done at the end. I mean, if you were watching, you know that. But still, 6 innings of no-hit ball, didn't give up any hits. It's pretty fantastic, to be honest. So even though he still has the tendency to lose himself every once in a while and get wild, we know that that's just part of what Gil does. So it is what it is. Still a very fine outing for him. And then Devin Williams miraculously got through a scoreless inning of his own. And then Bednar locked down the save in the bottom of the ninth as he just continues to be absolute freaking money. 23rd save of the year. Yankees win 4-1. So a comfortable victory at Fenway to start off the series. The Red Sox were actually the ones, and the Yankees had errors of their own. They still made 2 errors, so that's not a surprise. But the Red Sox also had 3, even more. So the Red Sox playing an even sloppier brand of baseball for really like the first time we've seen in just about any Yankees-Red Sox matchups this year. The Yankees have been the ones looking sloppy, but it was nice to see them play a cleaner, I wouldn't say completely clean, but a cleaner brand of baseball than the Red Sox for once this year to start this very important series. So that was good to see. Then yesterday would come around, and I was hoping they would get this win too, especially because Fried was on the mound. But they struggled against Bayo as well, so I was kind of nervous. I wasn't sure how the Yankees were going to come out, but they did come out strongly with Bellinger having a sac fly in the top of the first, and then Jazz squibbing one right up the line. Little dribbler up the left field line in the infield, and it drove Ben Rice home, and it got the job done to drive home the second run of the game right away in the top of the first. So the Yankees jumping out to a 2-0 lead right away, and then Jazz getting an RBI single in the top of the third to make it 3-0, followed by a Jazz solo shot in the top of the fifth to make it 4-0. So he's putting in the work yesterday to give the Yankees just tacking on runs, giving them a higher and higher lead. And it's needed because we have our feelings about the bullpen and what they're likely to do. Cool thing is that this was Jazz's 29th home run, and with him having 30 stolen bases this year, literally on the nose right now, 30, he is now 1 home run away from a 30-30 season for himself, and that's pretty freaking cool. So I do hope he manages to, he'll definitely hit 1 more. I'd be surprised if he didn't. Still 2 more weeks of gameplay, including tonight. So I do expect him to still hit his 30th home run at some point, and when he does, 30-30 for Jazz. That's pretty friggin' sick. That's nothing to just glance right over. That's cool. 30-30 is nice. So good for him on that. Then the thing started to happen that usually gets me a little nervous, and Fried was a part of it, because he didn't necessarily have himself too clean of a game, but he got through it, I guess. 5 1/3. He did give up 9 hits, though, and walked 2. So a lot of runners on base. He did limit the damage to just 2 runs, though, while striking out 6. The run that he would give up to start things with the Red Sox starting to creep back a little bit was a solo shot by Bregman to make it 4-1. And then after the Bregman solo shot, Connor Wong got an RBI single in the bottom of the 6th, and that made it 4-2. So those are the 2 runs that Fried gave up. But then he got out of the game after that. They took him out. And then the bullpen took care of business after that in his wake, with Luke Weaver going out there yesterday and actually looking really good, bouncing back. This was the outing I was referencing before, getting 2 outs and striking both hitters out for those 2 outs. So finishing off that 6th inning very nicely. Followed by Devin Williams, again getting through a scoreless inning, so that's really nice to see. And then Fernando Cruz in the 8th, again, actually allowing another run. So again, lately he's been shaky, but I mean, listen, he had been so good that it's not too much of a surprise that he has to come back down to earth a little bit. I honestly still trust him. I mean, despite the amount of time he missed due to injury, he had been that clutch and that awesome the way he has been for the Yankees for such a huge chunk of the season. So it is what it is. You tolerate it for now and just hope it doesn't continue into an even more important part of the season or possibly even postseason. But yeah, he had himself a bit of a rough week, and that was on a Jarren Duran solo shot. And at this point, you're getting nervous because now they're creeping closer. It's 4-3, and you continue to know the tendency of the bullpen. Top of the 9th, though, Aroldis Chapman comes out for the Red Sox to try to keep it at 1 run to give him a chance to come back. And we know how freaking amazing Aroldis Chapman has been, going all those innings, I think 50-plus without even allowing a run or even allowing many hits, if any. It's just ridiculous. Even with this run allowed, his ERA is 1.28. I mean, it's just stupid. You always love to see guys, be a main contributor to some brutal parts in recent history with your organization, and then just see them absolutely flourish, to say the least, with your arch nemesis. Just you love to see that crap, right? So glad they made him pay at least this time, because Cody Bellinger decided to have an iconic at-bat against him, just be a fighter and just be really gritty, and ultimately just hit a ball the opposite way off the monster to drive home an insurance run to make it 5-3, and it would prove successful because Bednar came in once again, was money once again, and got his 24th save of the year. So now the Yankees are going for the sweep tonight, which is awesome, but the matchup is, as I alluded to earlier, it's Garrett Crochet, who they have mightily struggled against this year, except for basically one moment where Judge got an awesome clutch 9th-inning home run off him. He was getting ready to go for a complete game shutout at Fenway Park some months ago. But other than that, for the most part, they have heavily struggled against him. And Will Warren, he has been good for the vast majority of the last, I would say, 2 or 3 months. He's been really, really good. I don't know why, I just have a feeling that he's not going to do well tonight. I don't know if it's going to be brutal, but I just don't see him having a good outing, and I don't see the offense faring well against Crochet once again. I don't see it. I'm sorry. So let's hope they get the sweep. That'd be pretty freaking awesome, to be honest. And to say the least, so important, because at that point, the Yankees would be 3.5 games over the Red Sox with 2 weeks to go. The Blue Jays won today, so it's very important to keep pace with them. You don't want to fall, 4+ games behind with, after today's game, what is there going to be? Maybe 13 games left. It's just not going to be favorable for the division at that point. It's already not too favorable, but a loss in the wake of another Blue Jays win today, which they did a lot of winning again this last week, unfortunately, after their series with the Yankees last weekend, it just wouldn't fare well for the division. I'd say it's probably a wrap at that point, and the Yankees are probably just going to have to concentrate on making sure they have that first wild card on lock, so they could at least have home field for that best 2 or 3, whether it's the Astros or the Mariners, who are neck and neck for the West, or the Red Sox. They have to play at Yankee Stadium for the best 2 or 3. So hopefully the Yankees are able to pull it out tonight, but I don't have a good feeling for it. I don't. So we'll see. But final game, we'll see if the Yankees could complete the sweep. Again, would be huge. And then what's to come? I guess we should, again, just recap like we did last week, what is to come for the Yankees for the rest of the season. Because after tonight, there's only 13 games left the rest of the way. 2 weeks worth. That is it. You have the Twins for 4. Coming up after this at Target Field, starting tomorrow the 15th at 7:40 p.m. Eastern. You'll have Rodon against Woods Richardson for the pitching matchup tomorrow night. Tuesday the 16th, also at 7:40 p.m. Eastern, you'll have Schlittler against Matthews that night. Wednesday, it'll be on Amazon Prime. You'll have Luis Gil against Bradley, former Tampa Bay Ray, if you remember him. So that'll be the pitching matchup for 7:40 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday the 17th. And they're done with the Twins for the year, so hopefully they just spank them a little bit to start the week. That'll be a nice breather. You never want to just guarantee victory before the game happens, but, I mean, the Twins are the Twins. I would at least hope the Yankees definitely, at bare minimum, win 2 out of 3. It's usually that way with them at the very least. Then they go off to Camden Yards for 4 games next weekend. And I definitely wouldn't say that this is just like a cakewalk for them, because the Orioles, I'm very frustrated with them right now because they just mailed it in against the Blue Jays this past weekend. They blew very good chances to win games and play spoiler to the Blue Jays in this last stretch here, or they just completely rolled over. It depends on the game. But they're just so useless, and this is just bias and subjectivity talking as a Yankee fan here. But they are so useless. Like, they just get their asses handed to them by the Blue Jays, and then I guarantee you, for the last couple of times I see the Yankees, both in this series, this 4-game set at Camden Yards, and then to round off the season, the 3-game set at Yankee Stadium in 2 weekends from now, I guarantee you they play the Yankees hard. I guarantee it. I'll be shocked if it doesn't happen that way. But that is such a typical behavior from a division rival who is definitely out of it and just wants to be spiteful. Like, I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about that. I do still think the Yankees will win more often than not in the 7 games combined that they're facing them to end the season. But I just still feel like the Orioles are going to give them a hard time. That's just how I feel. Thursday, the 18th, it'll be 7:15 p.m. Eastern at Camden Yards. This game will be on Fox, not Yes. No pitching matchups announced for this game or the rest, obviously, for the rest of the way. Friday will be at 7:05 p.m. Eastern, back on Yes. Saturday will be also on Yes at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. And then Sunday on Yes as well, the 21st, when we yap again after today, 1:35 p.m. Eastern at Camden Yards to round off the 4-game set. Then it's the home stretch from there, guys. Off day Monday the 22nd. Tuesday starts a 3-game set at Yankee Stadium. They do finish the season at home. 3-game set against the White Sox. All of those games are at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Wednesday's game that week is not on Prime, so no Wednesday's Prime to end the season, which is nice. Then Friday through Sunday to end the season, the final 3 games against the Orioles. Friday night's game will be at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Saturday will be at 1:05 Eastern. And then Sunday, like it typically is on the last day of the season every year, every game starts around 3 Eastern, 3 in the afternoon, 3:05 for the Yankees specifically. And then, to everybody's disbelief, especially my own, the 2025 season is over at that point. It is crazy to think about that. All eyes on tonight's game, though. I did give my official prediction. I do think the Red Sox are unfortunately going to pull the game out. I just hope it's not too ugly because, again, I don't like the pitching matchup. I don't like it. Warren against Crochet, even though Warren's been good, I expect him to be maybe respectable tonight, but I just think the Yankees are going to get absolutely shut down by Crochet. Regardless of how it actually goes, I unfortunately do not think the Yankees are going to pull this one out. I hope to God I'm wrong because, again, a sweep would be lovely. The outcome would be what I said before in the standings. If they do lose the game, then they will be a game and a half against the Red Sox. Just trying to do the quick math in my head here. And they will be 4 games behind the Jays, which, as I said, for divisional purposes, with the amount of games left at that point, this would be game 149 tonight, which leaves 13 to go. Just the division's probably out of reach by then, unless teams just give the Blue Jays a really hard time in the last 2 weeks and the Yankees just go crazy with their easier schedule. Could happen, but it's just not very likely. But especially at that point, I would say it's wraps for the division, which is a shame. You really don't want to play that 2 out of 3 if you don't have to. But the Blue Jays would definitely get a bye, especially if the season ended today, because they are the best team in the American League as of today. Followed by the Tigers and then the Mariners, which is super interesting because right now they have first place and the Astros are the 3rd wild card. Followed very closely by Boston in the 2nd. But again, another interesting note, if we want to take the scenario that I was talking about last week, which I did receive good feedback from a couple of people last week who did say that this current bracket and format with the 3rd wild card introduced in the last couple of years did confuse them. They actually did say I cleared it up for them, so I'm glad I could clear that up for you, a couple of people out there. But if the season were to end today, just as another example, hypothetical, the Toronto Blue Jays and the Detroit Tigers would have the bye. They would not play the best 2 out of 3 wild card round. And the matchups would be the Red Sox and Yankees, best 2 out of 3 at Yankee Stadium. And the Mariners and the Astros, for I guess you could say the ultimate fate of the AL West, best 2 out of 3 in Seattle. That's what it would be if the season ended after today. It's going to be super interesting to see how things shake out once gameplay is concluded 2 weeks from now. Literally 2 weeks from now, because later on in the day on Sunday, all games will be done and everything will be formatted and ready to go for the wild card round to start just a couple of days after that, which again is insane to think about. That there's just 2 weeks left and then it's the playoffs once again. But that's where things stand right now, my friends. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but if the Yankees do win tonight, just keep on, just win as many games as possible the rest of the way out. Win as many as freaking possible. Hopefully the Rays give the Blue Jays a tough time for the first part of the week, and then this weekend, I think the Blue Jays are playing the Royals. Yeah, hopefully the Royals can give them a hard time, and the Yankees just stack up wins against the rest of their easier schedule. Do not play down your bad opponent. Do not play them down. Get out there and get the job done. Especially if they're looking to play spoiler and be spiteful, like I've said before. How many times have we seen that happen? Don't let it happen. Do not. Go out there, get the job done. They're the same as any other opponent, especially as far as importance when you're in the chase you're in right now. Get it done. So, Twins, Orioles, White Sox, Orioles. I don't think the Yankees should be losing any more than maybe 3 games in that whole stretch. Maybe 4. Maybe 4. If you lose 4, maybe I understand. Too important to lose many more than that. And if you're going to lose many more than that, there's even a chance you might not be able to hold on to the first wild card, let alone the division, tracking that down again. Depending on also how the Red Sox do. So, don't screw around these next 2 weeks, especially if they don't win against the Red Sox tonight. Especially if not. Now, as far as my feelings on everything, going 7-5 or 8-4, depending on the result tonight, 8-4 I'd be fine with. 7-5, I'm okay. It's all right. I don't think it'd be good enough for the division, like I said before, but it's all right. I don't particularly like the thought of a best 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox, despite how they've looked against them this weekend so far, and they're finishing off well against them in their last couple of meetings. I'm not a fan of a series like that. Not a fan of it. So, not saying that they definitely would have won the division even if they went 8-4, but it sure as hell would give them a better opportunity at it. That's for sure. So 7-5, I don't hate it. I don't beyond love it. I don't hate it, though. It definitely could have been worse with their opponents these last couple of weeks, just really scuffled against the Tigers. But I don't hate how they did. The only points in time where I really hated how they looked was with those 2 losses against the Tigers. And I didn't like how they looked in that first game against the Blue Jays either, but they went on to correct themselves after that. And then that one loss against the Astros was really just... I mean, they were taking on the Astros and Brian Walsh that game, umpiring behind the plate, so... And they even tried to screw them over in the third game, too, like we talked about. So that was tough. But they still managed to win 2 out of 3, so I actually give the Yankees credit for that, not for nothing. So I don't hate it. Especially in context, I don't hate 7-5 at all. 8-4 would be really nice. So we'll see how tonight's game shakes out. Again, I don't expect a good outcome. We'll see. Again, game has not started for me at the time I'm recording. You'll be hearing this episode after the game is over, either later tonight or tomorrow or at any other point throughout the week. But for me, I don't know what's going to happen yet. That's just my prediction. Now, after that recap, I guess we should just do the team analysis now, considering we just went through a lot of individual happenings throughout the week for specific guys and who did what. Now, as far as where they are after all of that, I guess I'll start with the bullpen since they were a hot discussion this past week with how freaking brutal they were. But Fernando Cruz had himself a tough friggin' week. He definitely did. Honestly, though, I'm willing to accept it as just a scuffle, get it out of your system now, and hopefully be as much of a warrior as he was throughout the vast majority of the season, particularly when he wasn't hurt. But as long as he can get back to that for the home stretch here, these last couple of weeks and into the playoffs, that's really what's important to me. So he's still in my circle of trust. My very, very small circle of trust for the bullpen. The other main guy is Bednar. I think he is by far the one I am most comfortable with in that bullpen still. I've held that same view for the vast majority of the time he's been here, and I still do. And I really hope and pray that that doesn't change because he is too important to have that happen, and the bullpen would really just fold in on itself if that changed. Luke Weaver, I'm so unsure about him because he'll still go out there like yesterday and just show the 2024 Luke Weaver and get us all in our feels, wondering if he could just be consistent like that for the rest of the way and be the Luke Weaver we all know and love from the earlier part of this season and all of last year just about. But he'll go out there sometimes and just continue to be what I've referred to him as many others have as well. He'll just be Nuke Weaver when he's just getting smacked around. So it's just weird. It's really, really weird. Devin, more often than not, has actually continued to have shutout outings, but I still just don't trust the guy as far as I can throw him when it comes to big clutch spots. I just don't trust the guy. I still don't. And I don't think there's even enough time for him to build back that trust unless he just has like an October for the ages. Otherwise, it's just still a failure of a year and just no trust. Tim Hill, as long as he's in against lefties, I'm still pretty good with him. Duvall and Leiter, just honestly tragedies. Complete and utter tragedies. I don't really have much to say about them. I hope that they can find any semblance of their old selves. I mean, Mark Leiter Jr. really was such a huge backbone of the bullpen last postseason, and at many times even in the second half after they acquired him. This year has just been nothing short of horrid for him. And Duvall, since coming over, has been a nightmare himself. I just hope he discovers his Giants self. Because that would be so huge for the bullpen. It would be the huge boost to the bullpen that I expected right upon acquisition at the deadline. And we just haven't seen that so far. I pray we do. I really pray we do. And that more or less covers the really important names, especially in the back end there, for the Yankee pen. The only other ones really worth mentioning are the long relief guys like Yarbrough and Blackburn. I just really still just don't really care much for Blackburn. He's out there for mop-up duty. At least that better be all he's out there for, and he is the vast majority of the time. And Yarbrough I just think is really good for long relief as well if he's not going to be in the rotation. I do like Yarbrough. I think he's a sneaky weapon to have out there, especially as a lefty. And I think he's an important piece to at least just have around. So a lot of the back-end guys, they got to get their asses back in shape, especially guys like Cruz who are in the circle of trust and they just had themselves a bad week, or they just got to get it in line. Those who have been much worse than ever anticipated. The bullpen has got to get back on its feet here for the home stretch. I mean, listen, they have been truly freaking awful, but a great dose of amnesia for any sports fan or baseball fan, let alone Yankee fan, is turning it around in October. You do that, and it's like someone drank a magical amnesia potion. The struggles during the season, while they might be referenced for evidence later when there's contract talks or what have you, when it comes to in the moment, those are magically forgotten. So if they can correct that in the last couple of weeks here and make a hell of a run leading into the playoffs and even throughout the playoffs for the Yankees, you watch how quickly that's just thrown right aside and everyone's locked in on you. So that's my advice. Just lock in next couple of weeks. The bullpen's got to do it because they were such a big reason, along with the offense just occasionally disappearing, particularly against the Tigers. But it happens sometimes. Sometimes the offense needs a boost. They can't be great all the time. Nobody's offense can be. But the bullpen was such a massive reason that they had the struggles that they've had throughout the vast majority of their really bad times this year. The bullpen was a humongous focal point in that. They've got to just whip their asses into shape for this home stretch here. They have to. And especially in October, because that's especially what makes you nervous with what we've seen. The starting rotation, I mean, I've been pleased with them. If Will Warren's going to be your worst starting pitcher, you live with that. Because Will has had a very good vast majority of the second half. He's had a very good vast majority of the last few months. He really has. couple of bad outings mixed into there. He's still human and he's still even learning. This is really his first experience having really a full starting pitching season in the majors. Some might forget because they were expecting this guy to come back, expecting that guy to come back. We've seen so many shifts in the starting rotation throughout the year this year. We've dealt with Cole being out, Heel missing most of the year, Schmidt going down, Schlittler coming up. I mean, so many things happening in the starting rotation this year. It's been crazy. But throughout the whole thing, even if it were in time periods where he was making us mental, Will Warren has actually been one of the only pieces of consistency in that rotation, alongside guys like Rodon and Fried. They've been there too. But those are the names you expect, the big names at the forefront, especially with Cole out. But people seem to forget sometimes that Will Warren's been there the whole time. He has been. He's been there the whole time. And I hope he shows up tonight. I really do. Such a big game. Really hope he shows up. So I commend him for being more consistent over the last few months. I hope he goes out there and gets it done tonight. I don't have a good feeling about it. But if you look, he really had such a rough start to the year that's why, honestly, his ERA is like in the low 4s now. I think it'd even be in the mid to high 3s if it weren't for how bad he was so much of the time to start the year. So, I mean, with that considered, as good of a second half as he's had, when you look at the last few months, if that's your worst pitcher, again, you're in good shape, even if you are missing Garrett Cole. So that's pretty special. Now, speaking of missing Cole, you have the two who have massively stepped up in his wake, of course, Max Fried and Carlos Rodon. They both continue to look great. Fried started to fall off a little bit at the end of his most recent outing against the Red Sox, but still, I mean, you look at his season, you look at the numbers, it's still fantastic what he's managed to accomplish. He's 17-5 with a 3.03 ERA. He's going to come awfully close to 200 innings on the year, which is solid. He's going to come close to 200 strikeouts, probably around 180 if I had to say. Probably somewhere around there. And he's probably going to finish just south of 200 innings. So that's pretty good. A whip of around 110. It's at 113 right now, but it's not bad. I mean, sometimes he gives up more hits than he would like because at times he pitches a little bit more to contact. But still a very, very fine season with the Yankees. And he is, again, it just makes you more sad because you fantasize with a season like that, what it'd be like if Cole was around to have that as like a 1A. And then even with how great Rodon's been, to have that as a 3, it makes you wonder, man. And it makes you very sad if you do wonder, for sure. Nobody's denying that. But my God, it's wild to think about if he were around. Just can't have nice things sometimes. But Fried has been remarkable over the course of the entire year. He had that month and a half stretch or so where he was really bad, but listen, everybody's got to come back down to earth at some point. If you're going to finish with an ERA in the very, very low 3s or even upper 2s, almost 20 wins, I take it, especially if you're going to kick ass in October. And on the subject of Rodon, after that, he's been almost equally as impressive, guys. Just phenomenal. A terrific year for Carlos Rodon. He unfortunately got the loss, an undeserved loss, on Wednesday when they lost 11-1 because, again, he did a fine job. There's just no run support, and then the bullpen folded. But he's 16-8 with a 3.11 ERA. I mean, who would have thought his whip is even lower than Fried's? He's going to finish between 180 and 190 innings probably, which is fantastic for him. I think he might crack 200 strikeouts, which is really good. By far his best season with the Yankees, by far. Last year, again, except for that month and a half, 2-month stretch, which really inflated his ERA, he also did very good. He was up and down in the playoffs, but did very good. So for the most part in 24, and for all of 25 virtually, maybe except for the occasional hiccup, which is completely normal, he's been very good with the Yankees. Heavy bounce back from 2023. Got to give him credit because throughout all of 23 and for the stretch where he was going through just a nightmarish time in 2024, I was hard on him. Listen, he's getting paid the money that he is, and he was bought here to be a certain way with the Yankees. To back up Cole or back up Fried this year, whoever's the ace, he was their 1A. And he was just brutal. But you got to acknowledge at one point, give credit where credit is due, and acknowledge reality. Simple as that. It's been really good to watch him in 2025. And with his contract half over, I can only hope that for the back half, we see at least something similar to this year, because my God, it's been fun with him. A lot of fun. And then you have Schmidt, who's been out for a while, obviously. He was a big part of it, but he's been gone for a long time now. Probably won't see him until at least the very end of next year. At least, possibly even 2027. But for the other two who are here right now, Heel obviously missed the vast majority of the year, but he's getting better and better. Like I said before, still the occasional tendency to get wild, but that's just in his nature. Overall, he's still looking better and better on the whole with every passing start, and I love the look of that because he's very important. And you know that he has weapons that if they're on, he's a devastating pitcher. And then you have Cam Schlittler, who just continues to put his stuff together. I mean, his already disgusting arsenal of pitches, and he's only going to continue to polish it. And I said it for weeks. I said it after his first outing. I said it after his Major League debut. The stuff he has there has Cy Young potential. I'm not saying he definitely will win the Cy Young. I'm saying the potential is there if the polishing of his stuff continues. I think that's completely reasonable to say, if you've really been watching him like I have. So again, I'm pleased with the starting rotation. Despite the losses it's had to take on, Cole is gone. Heel was gone for, I don't know, about 75, 80% of the year. Clark has been gone for months now. You take a gamble and call up Cam Schlittler. Will Warren's in the rotation. And really, the main two you expected to take a stand were Max Fried, who you definitely had a good amount of faith with and really wish he got to pitch alongside Garrett Cole, probably next year. But you hoped for it this year, but you had faith in him regardless. And Carlos Rodon, with how up and down he tends to be, just not very sure. So the rotation had the potential to be an absolute dumpster fire this year, especially if Max Fried wasn't at his best. This rotation would have been very difficult to watch, and had a very good chance of being so. But it wasn't. And although they may have gone through some difficulties here and there occasionally, that's, again, things like that are inevitable, occasional struggles, it happens. But I don't think people truly sit down enough and think about how fortunate we are that the rotation turned out as good as it did, given the circumstances and everything that's happened throughout 2025. The Yankees really are very lucky the rotation has turned out the way it did. And speaking of fortunate, I mean, it was looking good on paper, even after having lost Soto, but still fortunate that the Yankees have had the killer offense that they've had, which I guess is a good transition into talking about the bats. This past week, they disappeared a couple of times, but they've still come out in other times and continue to look like that top offense we've known them to be throughout the vast majority of the year. And hopefully they go out there and kick ass again tonight. But going up and down the lineup, tonight's actually Austin Slater's leading off, and they reactivated him off the injured list a while back, obviously. And J.C. Escarra was optioned because he was holding his spot in the meantime. So Slater was the other half of what I said the roster expansion would be, as we all expected, on top of Yarbrough coming back. But Slater's leading off tonight, and he's obviously missed a lot of time, but you only expect so much of him. He's a depth guy for the outfield, and maybe somebody to slide into there against a left-handed pitcher. But he's whatever. Hopefully it's going to be a tough matchup with him against Crochet, I think, even if he is a righty against him. But we'll see if he does anything. Judgy, I know he has definitely been a hot topic of discussion, and we spoke a lot about him last week. All the controversy surrounding how much slower he's been coming back since coming off the injured list with the arm problem, and then all the things about how he's looked in the outfield with throwing back in, despite also making nice diving plays and still having his range out there. All the controversy about, did the Yankees throw him back out in the field too soon given his arm? Well, he is DHing tonight anyway. But honestly, he's been heating up with the bat still. Last couple of weeks, he's looked better already, and he has 47 home runs, 101 RBIs. Again, very good chance he hits 50, especially with a couple of matchups against the Orioles, who he kills in these next 2 weeks. I still think he should personally be MVP. I know that's a main topic of discussion for him, aside from his killer numbers, especially lately upon waking back up, which is good to see. But I know I'm going to get some blowback on that, but honestly, I'm sick of the MVP talk. I just really still think that Judge should get it. And it's not even a matter of bias, guys. It's objective. I know Cal hit his 54th home run today, tying Mantle. Listen, like I said, by saying Judge is MVP, I'm not taking anything away from Cal or saying that he's like I'm not like minimizing his season. What he's doing, especially for a catcher, is just out of this world. But I'm just going to be very blunt right now. And some Mariner fans, if you happen to be a Mariner fan listening to this show and you're not going to like what I have to say, well then disprove it to me then. With any statistics. I guarantee you can't. But Cal Raleigh is a home run sellout. He is. Again, I'm not saying that what he's doing with it is not incredible. It is. But it is the only basis of argument that you have to go off of for him winning the MVP. Because he's hitting that many home runs as a catcher. And he's far surpassed anything that's ever been done before in that regard. And it is incredible. Again, it is. I understand that. I give him all the credit. But outside of the home runs, which obviously inevitably has given him also a boost on the RBIs over Judge, for instance, you really struggle to find any other statistic where he is even remotely close to Judge. And if you want to use the argument that home runs should give him the award, well then why didn't Judge get the MVP back in 2017 when he won Rookie of the Year? Because Aaron Judge had the advantage on virtually every single statistic that year in 2017, except for batting average, which for Judge that year was still pretty good. It was in the mid-280s. Just that Altuve was way higher at the batting average, well into the 300s. But the home run stat was one of the many that Judge had over him. Home runs didn't seem to matter then because he didn't win. So why would that be the only thing that puts Cal over now? That'd be pretty inconsistent given the MVP results of 2017. Just throwing an example out there. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, the only other examples you'll see where Cal has better numbers is probably just at bats and plate appearances because Judge missed about a week and a half with the arm injury. He has also been walked a lot more. So with the plate appearances, it'll be more because Judge missed the time. With the at-bats, it'll certainly be a lot more in Cal's favor because of all the walks, maybe even hit by pitches mixed into there. So you give him those at-bats and plate appearances back, Judge is just about at the same rate or even better when it comes to home runs specifically as Cal is doing with his 54th, the numbers that he has this year so far. Not to mention that if you want to be extra petty as a Yankee fan with this, let us also not forget, and I've certainly let nobody forget this, Judge should also have one more home run because, again, he was objectively robbed due to blind people being in charge of replay at that game at George M. Steinbrenner Field against the Rays earlier in the season. So, technically right now, he should have 48. So, he's only about 5-6 home runs away from Cal. If you give him that home run that he also deserved earlier in the year. Even closer if he's to homer tonight or tomorrow, whatever. Even closer than that. So that's too small of a gap when considering all of the other statistics that Judge is so much better than him in. And I mean so much better. It's not even close, guys. It's not close. Judge's OPS is like 200 points higher. Here, I got a bunch of stats for you coming into today's gameplay. This is before the Mariners played today and before the Yankees played tonight. Right now, of all of the statistics, regardless of how you feel about WAR, Judge has a WAR over 2 points higher. He's over 8, Cal's at 6. Games played, Cal is 8 games more, which checks out because Judge missed that time due to his arm injury. Just for about a week and a half. Quick. But that checks out. Plate appearances. Cal has 32 more heading into gameplay today, which checks out with the time that Judge missed once again. Hits, despite all of that with Cal having more games, plate appearances, and at-bats thereby. Judge has about 30 hits more than him. Home runs, RBIs. These are the two big ones. 53 for Cal versus 47, or I guess asterisk 48 if he had the home run he deserved at GMS, for Judge. So in reality, 6 home runs apart. If Judge had the home run he rightfully deserved because he objectively hit fair down the line, it'd only be 5 apart. With more RBIs as well. Speaking of RBIs, because of the additional home runs, that's obviously going to be a discrepancy because of that. Cal heading into today has 113, Judge has 101. So it's just a difference of 12. Not ungodly at all. Somehow, Cal actually has more stolen bases than Judge, too, by only 3. 14 against 11, whatever. The rest of these stats are not even remotely close. Judge, 325 average versus Cal, 242. You don't care about batting average anymore? Fine. Totally cool. 447 on-base percentage for Aaron Judge. He's on base 45% of the time, pretty much. Versus Cal, 357. That is almost 100 points higher. That's ridiculous. Slugging percentage, 673 for Judge against Cal's 572. That is over 100 points higher. So because of that, OPS 1121 for Judge, 930 for Cal. About 200 points higher. OPS plus and WRC plus for Judge, over 200. OPS plus for Cal, 163. Over a 40-point discrepancy. And honestly, defensively, Cal, who is a platinum glove catcher in the past, I have not watched as many games as the average Mariner fan, so I can't speak to this too much, but I have legitimately heard, even from some Mariner fans myself on the internet, that Cal has not even blown anybody's hair back with his defense this year. In comparison, especially to his platinum glove season, he is actually not nearly as good. I know he's a catcher. I know the physical taxation as a result of being a catcher. And I know this conversation has derailed from talking about the Yankee offense, but we are on Aaron Judge, and this is a massive point of discussion for weeks now, especially as we draw closer and closer to the end of the season. Guys, especially if the home run gap closes in even more, and if Cal maybe hits a couple of more home runs, the award has to be Judge's. Because not only would the 2017 MVP race be complete and utter crap if it was otherwise, because now home runs matter. It's the only thing that matters now, and that gets Cal the MVP, but it didn't get Judge his in 2017. Despite Judge owning pretty much all the statistics over Altuve that year, except for batting average, pretty much. And if you actually look at Cal's statistics in the second half, he has not been good. All he does is hit home runs in bunches at times. That's all he's done. That's what I mean when I say home runs sell out. You look at any group of games over the span of 2-3 weeks, any 2-3 week span, any of those bunches you look at in the second half, Cal's batting like 170, 180, not getting on base often at all, hitting home runs in bunches, but then not hitting any for about a week or two. He actually has not had a good second half. He is not. This is not me being a biased Yankee fan. I'm telling the truth. Go look at the numbers yourself if you're capable with statistics. And look at the comparisons. Home runs and RBIs, yes, again, Cal deserves the remarkable credit for what he's done, but look at the comparison in statistics. Guys, Judge is better. Not to mention how terrific he still is at defense himself, even if outfield is less taxing physically than being a catcher. He's still the defender that he is. Outside of having some weeks with having a rough time of throwing back in, that's still the same. Even with that, he still managed to make some diving plays and show off that he still has great range despite his size. If the voters do not have voter fatigue with Judge, they will vote him MVP. Now, if Cal hits like 60 home runs or even gets closer to Judge's record even of 62, he's definitely running out of time to do so because he did hit 54 today. And the Mariners, I believe, how many games do they have left here? This was their 150th game. So he has 12 games left to hit 8 home runs. That's going to be very tough to get the Judge. Probably not going to do it. I don't want to jinx anything, but he's probably not going to do it. If he does hit 60, he'll have to average a home run every other day to do that. 12 more games, 6 more home runs to hit 60. It's not impossible, but if he does slow down the way he tends to, he will not make it. Because his home runs usually come in bunches. We'll see what happens, though. If he hits 60 for a catcher, he will probably win the MVP. And it'll be tough to talk people out of it. Because a catcher hitting 60 home runs, yes, it is objectively insane. What he's already done is objectively insane, but 60 is even more insane, and that's an even bigger number that you can't deny. But if he finishes in like the mid-50s or maybe 57, 8, and Judge has like 51 or 2, something like that, anything along that line, and the other statistics, the vast majority of them, virtually all of them outside of home runs and RBIs, are that much better with Judge, you still got to give it to Judge. I'm sorry. You got to give it to him. You have to. I know some people are going to disagree with that, but disprove anything that I've said in this segment about Judge versus Cal. I dare you. You can't. It's the objective truth. Your ultimate opinion about who should win the MVP may vary, but debating who should win it and the statistics themselves and how far apart they are in the vast majority of them, and how Cal has done in the second half. I mean, Judge has definitely had his windows of time where he hasn't performed in the second half, mainly thanks to his injury. But still, the facts remain with all the statistics I gave. I dare you to disprove anything. It's the facts, guys. It is what it is. So We'll see what happens with that. But otherwise, it's been great for the last few weeks to see Judge start to heat up again, especially in the late. He had a very good week this past week. Good to see his stats continuing to go up. He usually very much struggles against Crochet, so I hope he manages to do something, anything against him tonight. We'll see. Bellinger, like I said, I freaking love him. I love Bellinger. I really want him to come back. The versatility, the offense. I knew that he was going to put up a respectable season, but this is just a great year. I do think he will reach 30 home runs. Before the season, I was a little overzealous, and I said 40, but I didn't really... Yeah, that was my excitement for Cody. I still stick by it. I mean, it's a prediction I made. But it was definitely a lot of excitement injected into there. I definitely expected at least 30, and I think he will reach it. And there's even a chance he could hit 100 RBIs, which is freaking awesome. Because there's only one other season that he's hit 100 RBIs, and that was in 2019 in his killer 47 home run season. So if he hits 100 RBIs with the Yankees, that'd be sick. Without tonight's game being accounted for, he has 14 games left to drive in 7 RBIs. So an RBI every other day will do it. He'll reach 100. And with 30 home runs and the average hovering between 270 and 280, OPS in the mid-800s, guys, that's a really good season for Cody. It's really, really good, especially when you consider the defense he's provided and the versatility in doing so. My God, you take that every year for him. Every year. It's fantastic. Stanton, again, slowed down a little bit in the last week or so, but that's going to happen because he was on such a tear. So the last couple of weeks, him slowing down, you could tolerate it. But you hope he goes back on another heater, especially when his main time of the year comes around October. That's when you really expect great things from him, so we'll see. And you have some other names in the lineup tonight who aren't usually there, like Ahmed Rosario. I wish he'd get more playing time. I do, because he's done a really good job of putting bat to ball this year. I think he's probably going to have a little bit south of 200 at-bats, but in that time period, he's had himself a nice season. But I wish he'd get more playing time. I know he's not as strong defensively, but especially with a pitcher like Crochet tonight, a heavy right-handed lineup, he's in there tonight. I'm happy to see him. I hope he gets more playing time, though. I do. Mainly against lefties, so that's really where he specializes, I know. But I hope we just get to see him more occasionally. Trent's just... He is goated. We still just continue to say that. He has been really rough lately in the last couple of weeks, particularly this last week. I think he's like 0 for 20 or 1 for 22, I believe. So he's going through it right now. But listen, he's had such a great season, honestly, especially for his own standards, that he's allowed to go through that every once in a while. But he's not in today's starting lineup, though. Obviously, right-handed heavy, so that's to be expected. But Trent's done good against all this year. So, I don't know, hope he breaks out of it and gets back to being the Trent that he's been all year. Still at 30 home runs, just awesome. Goldschmidt's in there today as well at first base, obviously getting the start against the lefty Crochet, not a surprise there. He's just, he's platooning right now, which I totally understand because he's at a stage where he should probably be playing a bit less, heading towards the end of the season. Obviously, the last couple of months has not been his best gameplay, but, he's looking a little better lately when he's getting his playing time, but he hasn't been playing all that much lately, especially because he's had his recent injury struggles with his knee as well. But he's just, whenever he's asked to play, he goes out there and does the best he can. He's going to be solid defensively at first base, you know that, and you just hope he can reach base at least a couple of times offensively at this point. Jazz, like I said, he's nearing his 30-30 season. I think he will do it. He's still just, he has his tendency to do some things in the field at times, and at the plate you don't like his approach every once in a while, but overall, especially when it comes to comparing him to second baseman, like I've said for weeks now, I'm happy with his season on the whole. I just hope that he has a better October than he did last year, because other than a couple of moments in the World Series, ultimately, he just had an awful playoff, and he took that into the beginning of this season up until he was hurt. He was just a nightmare. Then he came back from that injury, and he's been mostly very good since. Very, very good. With the occasional dose of silliness in there with the fielding and the approach to the plate, but on the whole, you can't deny, especially when comparing to other second basemen, Jazz has gotten it done. It's been good to see. Then you have Caballero rounding it out, at least tonight, at shortstop. And he has just shown, whether it be defensively and even with the bat at times, even though you don't expect much from him in that regard, but you expect to get gritty at bats and a lot of fight, a lot of intensity, which even though some people may consider to be a bit overrated, does mean quite a bit for a team. It does. That has value. So I personally just think that Caballero, especially in light of recent news, should round out the season and even into the playoffs as the shortstop. I'll get some Volpe stands who irrationally disagree with me on that, but I'm aware of reality, and I accept reality, so I don't really care what they have to say at this point anymore, to be honest with you. Just really blunt about it. But nonetheless, it's good to see Caballero getting his reps out there. When it comes to Volpe, I'll talk about him in a minute, but he hasn't played for a few days, which is very good for the Yankees. Very, very good. And it's I'm not saying that to crap on the kid, but especially in light of recent news and what's been going on lately with him, it's just good that he's not out there. Especially if you could just consider the season overall. Come on. And then you got others like Jason, who, again, it's just a matter of playing opportunities or not, because others are doing very well. So it's just a matter of whenever he gets out there. They're going to have to really evaluate that next year if they don't clear off some of the log jamming. What's to be with Jason? Because you want to give this kid a consistent shot or not? That's really the question they have to ask themselves. So you only see him so much these days. That's really the massive rundown with Dominguez, just people wondering what the deal is and what it's going to be with him, because you only see him so much these days. Whether or not it's the correct thing to do, you only see so much of him, and there's a young talent. Even if he hasn't blown your hair back for much of this year, it's still a very young talent with some good potential, mostly just sitting there. What are you going to do about it if you're the Yankees? And then really other major ones of worth. Ryan McMahon, we know the deal with him. You're not going to get much offense, but you'll get great defense. And there's Wells and Rice. Rice getting some first base reps and continued catching reps. And Rice is just, lately, he hasn't done all that much. Coming into tonight, he's not in the lineup, but he's 7 for his last 26, so it's not bad. And he's still getting a hold of the ball every once in a while. Hasn't hit too many home runs lately, but obviously his overall numbers on the entire year we've talked about. Plenty are respectable, and if you hold on to them, I think it's only going to get better as the years go along, especially if you decide to give him more catching reps and work on him in that area, which, speaking of catcher, you also have Austin Wells. And my brother and I were even talking about it the other night. Like, you look at some of his numbers, he's got 21 home runs, 66 RBIs, heading towards 70 runs batted in. OPS is slightly over 700. You get that up maybe about another dozen or a couple dozen points, and, you know, if you get over 20 home runs, which he's already had, maybe over 70 RBIs. Despite the low average and how aggravating his plate approach is and the extreme slumps at the plate he will go into at points throughout the year, there are certain statistics, like I've said, that you accept. So it's not the worst thing. And then you also factor in that his defense has improved. So you take what you can with him, I guess. He can definitely be very frustrating to watch sometimes. Because a lot of the time at the plate, despite the fact that you do accept some of those stats, a lot of the time he is just a zero at the plate. He really is. So it's you just take what you can get with him. But on the whole, the offense continues to be, like we've said many times, a top offense in baseball. So that's what you try to remember, despite the fact that on the occasion, which again is completely normal, it's going to happen with any team, they might disappear. But on the whole, they are really, really good still. And they are very resilient. And hopefully they can do some damage against Crochet tonight. It's tough. They usually struggle against him, even when the lineup is right-handed heavy like it is tonight. But hopefully they can do enough damage to the point where they can actually pull off a huge sweep at Fenway Park. We'll see. Already gave my predictions for that before, though. Only thing left to really do today is just address what little happened in Yankees news, and it is very little. It's really just what I mentioned before. It's Slater being back from the IL and leading off in tonight's lineup, for instance, after having pitched the other day. And J.C. Escar being sent back down. Really nothing else other than that. And really the only injury update for anybody outside of those who will be out for the rest of the year anyway is on Brent Hedrick for the bullpen. He still just began his rehab assignment in AAA on the 4th, 10 days ago. So that's just still sort of ongoing. And that's the latest on that. The piece of news that has people talking, though, as far as injuries is Anthony Volpe, like I mentioned before. And this is why he hasn't played in a few days, because he recently received a cortisone shot for his shoulder, because apparently for months now, he has had a partially torn labrum in his left shoulder. Now, that's a big injury. Thing is, though, the Yankees are painting it in a light that it's partial, and they really actually truly do not think that it's affected his gameplay all that much, if at all. So because of them claiming this, I do think that it shouldn't be used as an excuse for the disgraceful gameplay that Volpe has shown for the vast majority of this season. I also don't think the Yankees should be given any excuses for allowing it to go on as long as they did, because there is no excuse for that, and they deserve to be crucified for it. Just throwing the kid out there to the wolves every time, even though he's clearly not cut out for it this year. He's just not. And as far as the defense, a lot of people are using it as an excuse for the defensive regression, but the thing is, I mean, his range has never really been as much of the problem. Sometimes it is, and sometimes he just does stupid things when he's trying to track down a ball. He has to get down to one knee even to field the most routine grounder. A lot of the time, it's just poor throwing. But he throws with his right arm and his right hand. This is in his left shoulder. So you can't really attribute it that much to that. And the fact of the matter is that also this particular injury originated from something that happened a long time ago, which makes this even harder to excuse when it comes to the Yankees. If you recall, this actually happened on my brother's birthday on May 3rd. So that is over 4 months ago. On that play where he was diving into the left field hole and a ground ball in the hole, he landed almost like entirely on his shoulder or just his left side heavily. And that was when he was on the ground just holding his shoulder for a while. He was in extreme pain. Nothing ever came of that. But since this MRI and then the cortisone shot, since it was finally revealed that this was a partially torn labrum, it got people thinking. But it can only affect his throwing so much, if at all, because it's not his right shoulder. And still the hitting. I mean, he hasn't hit unbelievably different from this in either of his first 2 years. So maybe it could have affected a little bit. Because he is a little bit worse even than either of the last 2 years as of this moment. But I still don't give him a pass for that. And I especially don't give the Yankees a pass for their disgraceful handling of this injury potentially over the last few months, which is nothing new with this injury staff and the organization as a whole. I think just more and more reason to just fire most people there once again. But yeah, I mean, the Yankees just deserve to continue to be ripped apart for this clown show garbage. It just seems to rear its ugly head with at least one player every year in some sort of way. It's just amazing. So Volpe hasn't played. He'll probably play at some point again this coming week, although, again, I don't think he should. I think it's been proven that Caballero should be getting shortstop for the rest of the way out. I don't have an issue with it. He shows more grit, more fight, more ability. I mean, Volpe set the bar ridiculously low with his lack of production offensively and even his defensive regression. Caballero at least be much better at that at the very least. But he could even provide a little bit more at the bat because, again, Volpe was doing next to nothing. Except for the occasional 1 or 2 day explosion and then the slump that lasts for a month plus to follow. And again, this is not to crap on Volpe. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just saying what's happened. And I'm much more so, especially at this point after letting it drag on for so many months, I'm blaming the Yankees for allowing it to continue and continue to throw him to the wolves every single day without thinking of any other idea to make things better for the team and for Volpe himself. I think they have morbidly failed the kid in a lot of ways too, by also not helping him to adjust on the fly and fixing things that obviously need fixing. I've said this many times, but honestly, it bears repeating. So that's all I got to say about that, guys. The whole Volpe thing, we'll keep eyes on it. We'll see when he plays again. But yeah, he's got a partially torn labrum in his left shoulder. Wild. So that's really the only thing to talk about as far as news when it comes to injuries or roster stuff. Very quiet on that forefront otherwise. But with no social media segment today, guys, that does put a wrap on episode 263 of Yapping Yankees today. I thank you so much for listening. Was not much shorter of an episode as always. Who is surprised? Nobody. But the usual reminders, guys. Please remember to follow me on all social medias if you don't already. Mike Scudero NY is my Facebook fan page. At Mike Scudero is my Twitter or X handle, and Instagram is Mike Scuds97. Subscribe to Yapping Yankees on all 4 of the platforms it is available on. That's YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Like, subscribe, comment wherever you may be listening to show your love and spread the word about the show like you all always do such a great job at doing, my friends. And if you have any time, listen to the past Yapping Yankees episodes that you might have missed. Episodes 1 all the way up to 263 today. Those are all available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SoundCloud. But if you're more of a YouTube listener, I don't blame you. I tend to be more so that myself. But I didn't start uploading there till episode 34, as some of you might know. So if you're cool with that, episodes 34 up to 263 today could all be found right there on YouTube. But once again, I thank you 3,000 for listening to me yap today. As always, my good friends, I have been your host, Mike Scudero, and we shall yap again next Sunday, hopefully, but most likely, next Sunday, September the 21st, when I come at you with episode 264 of Yapping Yankees, when we recap the second to last week of regular season baseball and look ahead to the very last week of 2025 baseball. Absolutely insane. Until then, guys, you know the deal. Hang in there. Be patient. Please stay safe. Look out for your loved ones. Go ahead and kick life's ass this week. And let's just hope the Yankees, now that their toughness in the schedule, their last 4 difficult series is done and behind them after tonight, let's just hope they rack up as many wins as possible as they try to finish in as good of a position in either the division and or the wild card standings as they possibly can. That's all we can hope for at this point, guys. So until next Sunday, when we will yap again, take care, and let's go Yanks.